Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing They Cloned Tyrone. Don't get too excited. Well, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes here. First up, joining me
Where's he going?
From Manhattan, New York City, please welcome John Schnars to the show.
Hi, Eric. Hi.
Next up, from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Some guy on Instagram today was complaining that I type too loud on my keyboard, John. And my response was that I'm going to do it louder now. Like, does he listen to the show? Does he know me? What do you think was going to happen when he said that? That's it. Just got a bone to pick.
Look, I've been saying that for years, so I'm glad somebody finally got through to you.
Is that what you think happened? Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, They Cloned Tyrone. This is a Netflix thing. Came out like a month ago, I think.
Yeah, maybe a month and a
we
half.
had some theatrical stuff to get to in the meantime. But yeah, we're here to do it. So let's take a quick break and review our main feature.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. About the prime time. Main feature.
Levi on YouTube says, "Uh-oh, Eric's in a mood."
Who we call Bad Eric. It's June 14th was the release date here, so it's actually
okay.
2.5 months.
It's right around my birthday.
Early summer.
Yeah.
Flag Day, June 14th.
You know, John, even podcasters are allowed to be in moods, is what I would say.
I mean, I don't know. If you're not in a mood, I think there's something wrong. So
Yeah, what's going on?
yeah.
That's when you have to really ask questions.
That's question everything. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, man. John,
Mm-hmm.
back with the white tea this week.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever, how often do you replace those white tees? Like, you get a little ring around the collar on those? Like, what
So-
how are they looking? You get a little underarm action you got to replace them on every
No,
couple months?
the underarm has not been an issue historically.
Of
Who
course,
knows?
your
You
sweat
know,
is, like, pristine, I'm sure.
I'm an aging man though, Eric. Like, our bodies are only going in one direction. Usually for me, it is like the neck starts to get a little wonky, and then like they get like translucent. It's not good.
Have you considered a V-neck so that you can't see them under your clothes there?
No, haven't. I mean, I own some V-neck tees as we've, over
true.
the
Yeah, we've
years,
had the deep V conversation before.
the most recent ones I bought, of which this is a crop, they're too small. I bought. Part of it is like every time I go to buy them, I'm like, what fucking shirt?
How is it too small? Let me see. Show me.
It's
Do a little
just-
spin
no,
for me.
No,
buddy.
I'm not getting out of this chair.
No, I'm
It's-
curious. You said it's a crop. Is it like you got
You got,
doing
you got a
it?
little
if
halves shirt?
if I stand up and like put my arms above my head, it like
Hell yeah. You get a
it
little
comes
belly
up
button
like
action.
you can like see my like
Alright.
boxer line.
I might
Welcome
have
to my world.
I might have to mark this episode explicit after all. I like it.
I mean, fucking A.
Oh, Mr. Schnars, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is kefir. No, that's a joke. It's not kefir. The word is replicate. 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 Make an exact copy of. Reproduce. It comes to us. I mean, there's like, you can use replicate, interestingly, verb, adjective, or noun. It comes to us from the Latin. Plicare means to fold. Meaning back or again. So it's like to fold back again. The current senses date from the late 19th century.
That makes sense. Industrial Revolution.
Sure.
A time when many things were suddenly able to be replicated.
Well, I'm surprised it didn't date to like Gutenberg. Like, as soon as the printing press was around, you would think that word kind of, but yeah. So
one of my
replicate.
favorite things is like illustrations of what people from that era, like into like the early 20th century, thought robots would look like.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, so like steampunk and old timey. I love it.
It's delightful, for sure.
Good times. All right, John, tell me about They Cloned Tyrone.
They cloned Tyrone. This, as Eric mentioned, is a Netflix joint. I believe developed at Netflix. I don't think this was like a festival thing they acquired, but writer director Jewel Taylor. This is not his first feature, but it's like the first thing that is, as a director, that's like, you know, receives a lot of attention. He had done, I think, one other full length indie, it looked like. But Jewel Taylor and co-writer Tony Rettenmeyer, probably best known as the writers of Space Jam 2. Little film called Space Jam 2. You familiar with that one, Eric?
Have seen neither of those movies.
What? You never saw Space Jam 1?
Who gives a shit, John? Why am I watching Space Jam?
Even I've seen the Space Jam. I haven't seen the second one, but
Eric, that's like you and I, because obviously Casey, much older man. We were like the age when Space Jam 1 came out that it was like everyone saw Space Jam.
Okay, so help me out. On a list of movies that I'm never going to watch, which should I not watch first? Space Jam or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings, Space Jam's got Looney Tunes.
So
Yeah,
you're saying
Space
Lord of
Jam's
the
actually
Rings
like
number
pretty.
one.
Well,
Space
also,
Jam number 2.
but hold on, like Space Jam is like 1 hour 50-minute movie. Lord of the
That's
Rings,
true.
it's like you're committing like 9 hours.
Oh, I have some thoughts about 2-hour movies this evening.
In any event, Jewel, the director, Jewel Taylor, also the writer of Creed 2. So he's like done some stuff.
How are those
But-
Creed movies? Are they any good?
So I've only seen the first one, and it is great.
Yeah,
I actually really look forward to watching 2 and 3. I just like it's it's been on my watch list for a little while.
I'm right there with Stars. The first one's awesome. I need to see the rest.
Yeah, they're cool. But yeah, so that that's our director. The film stars John Boyega as Fontaine, who is basically like a mid-level gang member in a neighborhood called the Glen, which I guess it's not in LA. Did they say where the Glen is supposed to be? Did I just miss that?
It felt like the South, and then they were talking about going to Memphis.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, they did mention
maybe it's like
Memphis.
outside.
I'm
All right,
guessing
so, like,
southeast somewhere.
This is something.
Kiefer Sutherland does have a southern accent. It's real bad and amazing.
He also
Spoiler
he just
alert,
looks like
he's
a
in this.
fucking redneck. I mean, he's in the credits. It's not like a surprise when he shows up. But so you've got John Boyega. Jamie Foxx is like the other big, name, and then Teyona Paris. It's like sort of the three of them are the central characters. Jamie Foxx is playing a pimp named Slick Charles, and then Teyona Paris is Yo-Yo, which is one of his ladies who he's like beefing with, but then like she leaves and she comes back.
I loved watching your face as you were trying to suss out how you were going to say that.
She's a woman of the night. She's proud. She's got things. She's building for she's trying to build for stuff, but this is what she's doing right now. Slick, the Jamie Foxx character, is super over the hill pimp. Like he's basically like a pimp who's like may or may not actually be doing any pimping anymore, but there is like women that he works with. In any event, whatever. We can get into it. The setup here is that Boyega gets into like a little bit of a scrap with another drug dealer person in the neighborhood, hits him with his car. That guy goes back to his boss and is like, "Yo, we gotta get payback here," because he like fucks him up with the car, and they go. So Boyega is like shaking down, or not shaking down, but like he's going to Slick, to Jamie Foxx's character, to like collect on some money Jamie Foxx owes him, and as he's leaving that place, gets basically gunned down in a retribution shooting for having run this guy over with his car. The thing is, he gets shot like 20 times. Like it's like a no doubt about it that he's fucking dead. The next day, he wakes up in his bed, doesn't 100% know what's going on. Has like vague memories of being killed, but like also not memories. He shows up back at Jamie Foxx's place and is trying to like extract the money from him again. And this is when Jamie Foxx is like, dude, you don't remember you were shot last night? Like, I don't even understand how you're walking around. And this then tees up this whole just bonkers level thing of Jamie Foxx, Yo-Yo, and John Boyega Fontaine investigating what the hell's going on. They very quickly find a trap house. It basically like a rundown sort of like drug dealer den that has a secret underground lair where there's like a laboratory, and Fontaine finds the dead body of his with like bullet holes in it. And it just goes like crazier from there.
Cool. Casey, what'd you think?
I enjoyed this movie a lot. I watched it when it first came out. It's been out probably about a month and a half, 2 months, I think.
Yes,
I watched
June
this when it
14th, as we were discussing earlier.
Sorry. I enjoyed this a lot, and it is not to say that it's like the movie of the year necessarily, but I think there's some really great things going on here with the way they mix genres of blaxploitation with the kind of a sci-fi thriller thing, but they got all. This movie has a look and a feel to it, which is really impressive. They've set their own atmosphere for this thing, even though it's kind of in modern times, but which I think adds to the story. All that said, I also think the performances were all great too. I love Jamie Foxx. I love John Boyega. I love Yo-Yo. I forget the actress's name at the moment. I'm sorry. It was great. Kiefer was pretty laughable, but he's there to.
Yeah, dude, listen, you're talking.
He's
to
not.
The world's biggest 24 fan. I was pretty excited to see Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh yeah, but this movie is definitely too long. And I will save the nitty gritty for Eric because I know he's got feelings about it. But I agree, it could have been shorter and been just as fun. But still, it was a blast, and I like seeing weird stuff. And this is fun, something that felt fun and new.
John,
yeah, I had a fun time watching this. I actually laughed a lot. Like I actually thought it was pretty funny. I mean, Jamie Foxx is really good. Like, I think he drives a lot of the comedy. Him and then Teyonah Paris, the Yo-Yo. Like, they have some back and forths, but there's just some Jamie Foxx moments. The version of Pimp that he's playing is like the most. It's not the most over the top, but it is a very over the top. And it's a very like over the hill, like faking it because he knows he can't make it anymore type of Pimp.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed it. I thought his performance specifically was like a lot of fun.
His line about how he won the 1997, I forget what he called it. Like,
yeah. The like Pimp of the Year award. No, I mean, there's so I agree with Casey. I laughed a lot. That's like what kept me in it.
Yeah.
There is the middle section of this movie. So they reveal, there's this big reveal. I mean, it's also in like the title, like they clone Tyrone, like they reveal the sort of like baseline conspiracy that's happening.
I looked. So at the point that they reveal it, there's still 45 minutes in the movie left.
No, well, I meant like when they find the first Tyrone clone, that's like 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And so like, then there's this like, to your point, then there's the like, we're going to do all the exposition and kind of spell out exactly what's happening. And there's still 45 minutes. It's very lumpy. So it's like an hour 50.
That's a really good word to describe it. I know we often say shaggy, but for some reason lumpy feels right with this movie. Well,
because when it's working to me, this is actually like I don't want to say great, but it's a very, very good, to Casey's point, they had a vision of what they wanted to do to play with genres, like pulling in the blaxploitation stuff, pulling in the sci-fi, like kind of the like goofy sci-fi, but then also the Gattaca thrillery like sci-fi. Yeah. You know, they knew exactly what they wanted to do.
A little bit of Get Out in there.
Here's the thing. It has the Netflix disease that
yes.
I honestly think it's like 95% of movies on Netflix have this problem of they just need a fucking editor whether it's in the script phase or after the fact.
I hate to sound like a
Fucking go through
broken
the
record.
movie and just take 20 minutes out of it. There's no
I-
reason for it to be in there.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but like something fundamentally changed with these kinds of movies when Netflix became the like dominant platform. Like
Yeah,
I can't unsee it. It's crazy.
No, well, it's because they give them. I don't know if this is the exact case with this movie, but I know this is true with some of
Because
these
I don't
other
think
deals.
they give a shit. It's just content. Like Netflix
Well,
isn't giving you content notes. They're
the
just like, is it a
reason-
movie? Great. Is it content?
They're bidding against
machine.
other studios for these films, and the reason they win them, sometimes maybe even for less money, is because they tell the
'Cause they're like,
director,
"We're not gonna fuck with that."
We're not gonna exactly
Right.
and like we're
Because
gonna
a
let you do what you-
studio, right? A studio's going to want to put it into theaters. So they're going to start testing it. Then they're going to have notes from the tests. They're going to want to talk about how to market it. Like, yeah. So like
And then they're gonna force edits.
you bypass all of that if you
No,
just
well,
sell it to
they're giving
Netflix.
directors Final Cut who would never get Final Cut anywhere else.
Directors
That's-
listen, I've said this before. There's like 5 directors on earth that should have director's cuts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like,
So
because
yeah, I
that's
mean,
the,
so,
the,
yeah,
the
it-
issue with this movie is like at its worst it feels like a comedy director's cut, which is like to me a sin against cinema always. Like there's never been a good like comedy director's cut ever.
yeah.
Yeah, so here I'm with you guys. Like this actually overall, I hate to say it, was one of my bigger disappointments of the year because it was one of the few things where I saw a trailer and was like, "Oh shit, I need to see that." And a lot of everything you guys are saying is totally there. Like my favorite thing about this movie is probably the soundtrack. The soundtrack fucks like, and in both ways, like the licensed music, but also the mood stuff that
Fucks
they
two
add
ways.
in. Yeah, in multiple ways. The like mood setting atmosphere stuff is so good. It's got this like retro 70s synth vibe, sometimes crossing into like 80s horror. And it is so good. And there's just these moments where there'll be a little montage or there'll be like some real action happening and the music's going and there's like some neon pink lighting and you're like, dude, this is the exact vibe this movie needs to stay in. Then that scene will end and there'll just be scenes that you don't need for 20 minutes or like too much talking. Like it felt like it kept starting and stopping. It's like and there's a huge problem with the places in the script where things are revealed. So like what it does is instead of kind of keeping this mystery going, it just keeps revealing more stuff to you that then is like, okay, well, what do we do now? Like, I couldn't believe there's 45 minutes left after this Kiefer Sutherland scene.
Yeah.
The second half of this movie, to call it lumpy, is
Yeah.
generous. Like, you're then. Okay, so Kiefer Sutherland gives his monologue, and I'm watching this. I'm like, look, I know I'm tired today. I didn't understand a fucking word he just said. So I went to Wikipedia and read the paragraph describing that scene, and I challenge anyone to describe to me the point of these, other than the broad. I get the broad strokes of like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're keeping people down, like whatever. But like, it didn't make a goddamn lick of sense. And then they go later and they're in the lab, and the other random doctor out of nowhere. This is the point where I'm like, this is too much.
Well, that's
He
John
gives another
Boyega
monologue
Sr.
that makes even less sense that I also read Wikipedia about. I could not tell you what this movie is actually about.
So
And it's a bummer because what I think this is in some ways like a very modern issue centric horror film in that at its core it's about class and race, right? But I think because it is so funny and because there's like a core of a really great story there, I think that it in some ways it does other than the just flow of it, it's a thing that other filmmakers could learn from because it's doing an issue movie, but it's not so dead serious that you lose all the fun. Like it is such a fun. Where it works is where it's being fun. When like the three of them are together and they're driving around, it almost has like a road movie feel in some scenes. Jamie Foxx is just bebopping and scatting in the back, and like I love John Boyega. He's great. This other, what's her name? Yo-Yo, is that her name? I don't know. I mean, I've never seen her in anything, but she's really funny, and they have great chemistry together. Like I think in that sense, this film is a thing to look at and be like, okay, here's a way to do an issue movie where they still get all their shit in. It's all their thoughts and philosophical stuff and stuff.
Eric, you
But-
have seen Yo-Yo because she was one of the main characters in Candyman 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, you think I remember 2021, John? Good Christ.
But
So
yeah.
anyway, like it's unfortunate because there's a lot of cool stuff in this movie, and like I was trying not to be that bummer when I'm watching it, but I'm like, this thing is
No,
a mess. Like, why
dude.
is it such a mess?
You were sort of like, not to, I'm going to sound like a fucking old man's, but like there's like a vibe to this movie that's really fun. Like, and I didn't watch the trailer, but I had a lot of people recommend the trailer to me, and I was sort of like, well, I'm going to watch it, so I don't need to be spoiled. Like, and again, there's a 90-minute version of this movie that I think is actually really great. I tend to agree with you that so here's the thing. It's not a mystery. Like, they're not trying to do a mystery film. It's not like a whodunit or
Right.
even like a whodunit. It is a sort of, to your point, social awareness, sci-fi satire. I actually would say the other thing they're attempting to skewer, and like, I haven't thought this much about it, so, and I certainly haven't read anything, but they're also somewhat skewering like conspiracy theory thinking, because
Right.
a lot
Yeah.
of what's happening here is sort of like, you take the most extreme versions of conspiracy theories that people actually talk about on the internet as like actually happening, and that's basically like what is happening in the reality of this film. And I think that's intentionally meant to skewer. I mean, it's also, I think it's it was intentional and fun and interesting, but like the main characters are a gangster, a pimp, and a prostitute. Like
Right.
that is the sort of
Yeah.
like callback to some of the sort of like more genre elements here, and references back to an earlier time, like earlier periods of black cinema, right? But
Yeah.
they're trying to have
Well-
fun with that.
That's the thing with me. Like, I get Eric's point, like with the plot of this, with the crazy scientists in the basement and stuff, is getting a little crazy. To me, I was fine with it because it feels like, while the look and feel of this is out of a 70s blaxploitation genre, the plot is very much a 60s 70s sci-fi craziness too. It's just kind of
I mean,
bananas.
that's fine. I just couldn't understand it. Was my issue.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
it's so
it's-
like they're speaking in such roundabout language and like flowery, and I'm just like, tell me what's happening right
No,
now.
but I mean, I do think I think it was a choice. You like, it's not a choice you have to like, but I think that was
I
like
don't-
somewhat
okay, I
intentional
don't
to
like
just
it.
be like, to make it ridiculous.
At its best, though, this is what I'll say: is it gave me vibes of something like a Friday, like a sci-fi Friday. Like it's
Yeah.
got that kind of thing where the neighborhood just really is a character. Like it's you feel the affection for the setting and the people in it in a way that sort of Friday gives you. That's really fun. It also kind of reminded me of like The Stuff a little bit when they're like, it's in the chicken, like that whole scene.
Well, I think
that whole scene was
that's
really
that's
funny.
like a straight reference. Dude, can I tell you about my favorite character in this entire movie? And I was
Please.
gonna see if, because I don't even know that they gave him a name.
The
The
drunk guy?
fucking the guy with the fan, who's like one of the gangsters who works with he works with John Boy with Fontaine. He shows up with him.
Oh,
The
that
first time
guy,
you
that
see him
guy,
is he
yeah.
goes to the house with Fontaine when they go the second day, and
And
they're
he's
like,
got money for him.
dude, the last 20 minutes of this, when they get all the gangsters rather, and they're like, they're going in. That fucking guy is holding that fan in every scene. I love him so much. There's like a moment he makes like a phone call when they're in the like underground lair to like one of his buddies to be like, you gotta come get in on this. It's just, that character
Dude.
is so fucking perfect. I gotta figure out who the actor was. He was my
Yeah, I
favorite.
think like my Jamie Foxx is probably my favorite. But like I loved seeing Kiefer Sutherland show up in this movie because he is just like, no one's ever been like, Kiefer Sutherland is an amazing actor, but he's got a thing he does and it can be fun. Like he's sort of playing his thing straight up here and it just makes it funny. Like he's literally does the 24 yell at one point and he's got this like
Yeah.
bad Southern accent. I did like the beard. The beard was pretty tight.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
yeah,
I
it
was
just-
I
he was hamming
pumped.
it up, and I enjoyed him a lot.
Well, again, like I think it's a great this is like the best parts of this movie is like they made these great choices.
In
They
these kinds
bring
of
in
movies, there's
Kiefer.
always like you always got to be like, who's the recognizable white guy we're gonna have come in and be the villain? Like, you
Yeah.
know, but it's like the more fun you can make that casting choice, the better it is.
I think the actor or like the character I'm thinking of was Brian Tyree Henry, who's in Atlanta. He's been like he's been in other stuff.
Hmm.
Um, man, I just want to go back and watch like a super.
I've never
cut of
seen
just his
Atlanta.
moments.
Is that good?
Yeah, I've only seen the first season, but it's a delight. That's
Word.
one like we keep meaning to go back to, but yeah, I don't know, man. Like Eric, I can't push back on like there were moments in this movie where I was like, guys, just like what the scene has legitimately no value.
Right.
It's like drag, and then there's some. It's not even just like individual scenes. There are also like it's every scene could be reduced by 20%
Well,
and
and
lose nothing.
Yeah.
there's like a sequential issue for me where they never really build momentum. Like that's what I was waiting for was like
Yeah.
plot momentum of feeling ratcheting circumstances, and like that is something that's majorly affected by the way that they dole out the surprises, because then it just sort of sucks the tension out, and it's almost like we're starting again trying to build momentum, and
Yeah.
it just sort of goes like
Well,
this.
For me, it's that chunk right in the middle after the first time they find the lab until they go to the church and find their way back to the lab again. That section in between there, I agree with you, Eric. It feels like you would expect momentum there, and there's none. And it just feels kind of repetition of what we had just seen when they first discovered the lab, and then they're discovering the lab again, more so than ramping it up and having something happen that moved that plot forward in between there until they go back. There's a little bit there. That's where it kind of struggled for me in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point very early in the movie, like in that first like 10 minutes, where I thought what we might get is a version of Triangle. You guys remember Triangle?
Yeah.
I do.
I thought we were gonna get a version of that. I mean, there's been other, it's sort of time loop, less to Casey's point, 60s era, sort of kind of goofy mad scientist sci-fi, and more like time loopy.
Happy birthday to me.
Yeah,
Or
yes,
happy
like
birthday to me. Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day. Yeah. Like things folding over on themselves, yada yada. And and to me that would have, to your point, have generated maybe a little bit more forward momentum. Yeah, like there's a scene, maybe it's the second time he's killed, where he does the bit with the mom again.
Yeah.
And like that was a kill, like that was like a moment where I was like, wait, why are we doing this again? Like we got it the first time. Like we know what's going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is it like sets up, it's meant to like give more weight to this moment where he like kicks the door down, but like we didn't need the second pass through
Right.
to get to
What
the
what are
door.
some of our favorite moments? That
Well,
would be my question.
Real quick though, I guess that would kind of put us in going through the emotions that he's going through too, right? That he's come back as a clone and he got that awkwardness
Yeah.
where you kind of repeat stuff maybe.
And I
Just
did
a thought.
like there's a couple moments where they try to do the like existential like who are you really, like you have the memories. I mean, the reality is they're not just clones. I mean, we're in deep spoiler territory. They're not just clones. Like none of these people have, like, there's a moment where Jamie Foxx is like, I never won that pimp contest because like that pimp contest never, like the Glen itself, everyone who lives there, it's not like they took real people and cloned them and like continued, like these were all people that were grown in the lab and have been like circulated back and back and forth through. That was my
Yeah.
I
understanding.
don't understand a goddamn word of it, if I'm being honest.
All right.
Yeah.
In any event, my
I think
answer
you're
to
right,
what were my
Stars.
favorite parts was any scene with the guy with the fan. That dude it's just like pure gold.
The thing that probably made me laugh the loudest, because it was just a really funny physical gag, was when the other sex worker lady, they knew they were being watched, and they were trying to put together the scheme to get him into the lab.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
she's
she's
going
doing
around
the
in
hand jobs.
cars. She's like in cars talking to people, but knowing she's being filmed. So she's like giving fake hand jobs and blowjob, like so that they think that she's just doing her regular stuff while she's like scheming to like set this. It's like her physical acting there was so
Yeah.
funny.
It was good. Well,
'Cause
that's
you don't
so
know at first either. It's like there's a nice they reveal it. Like it's funny.
yeah, they're trying to set up this bit where they're going to bring the other gang leader, like the rival gang leader who had killed Fontaine the first time. They're trying to like bring him into the scheme, but they don't want to be too obvious because they know that'll tip him off, and so they use the prostitutes.
I didn't
as the
understand
go-betweens.
when they showed that the second time and showed all this stuff. I didn't understand if that was like a this is what happened before thing, or if this was the everything happening again.
What do you wait? What do you
Like
mean?
when they had the guy shoot him, did that only happen once, or did it
No,
happen
no.
twice?
No, well, the second shooting, they shot him in the shoulder, and the whole point was he had to act dead
Right,
so that
the
he
first
could like
time he
wake
actually
up.
dies.
Yeah, the first time.
Yeah,
they shot him,
the
like,
first time
20
was
times.
yeah, the first time was flat out murder for retaliation. The second time was
Right.
part of the plan.
Yeah.
My own favorite scene, this is a little spoilery probably, but it's the very end scene of this movie. Just because I always love when they play tricks with the title of the movie and whatnot, and it kind of comes out of that era too. But we get a whole scene at the end of this we watch John Boyega walk up doing the morning routine, knock on mom's door, tell her she's going to the store, walking down there. We catch up later. He's hanging out in the living room with his friends. And there's all the news, watching the news with all the naked people that have shown up in town, and watching his buddy. And then as they're watching that, going, "Is that you, Tyrone?" Which explains the whole title of the movie. They cloned Tyrone.
Well,
That's the only time Tyrone's mentioned.
With the place that I was at the end of this movie, when it came back, I got so mad. I was like, "No, you did not earn this. Like, this has already been too much shit in this movie." It was the joke is funny, but I was like, God damn it! Couldn't we just done that before the credits? Because I thought it was over and I got excited.
It's a long extra scene
Yes,
in there for sure.
and it had a nice little ending. Like, it's whatever.
No, totally.
Listen, I will admit I'm in a mood today. I'm just like work and life, and I'm tired. And my stomach hurts as per usual. But and maybe there's a day this thing catches me, and like I'm a little more forgiving to it. But I was just really excited for it, and I was hoping it would kind of be one of the better things this year, and I'm not sure that it is.
Maybe they'll do like a studio edit, and we'll get a little bit of a tighter version. They need like the reverse of the director's cut.
Yeah.
They need the studio cut.
Right, we need a name for that, right?
Yeah, it's like, nah, I don't know.
It's so funny because like I think that there's like when we were I've said this before, but when we were growing up, the issue is that studios were cutting, like the MPA was so hardcore in the late 90s especially, that like if you liked horror, the good shit was getting cut out, the gore, like all that stuff. And so a director's cut was exciting because it'd be like, oh sweet, you're like, I get to see the like head explode or whatever. But it's just different now. Now it just means leave a bunch of shit in the movie that should have been cut out. It's just a different thing now.
Well, I think I ascribe it more to like the creative team actually thinks this is like the fullest version of the story, and it's like you just need a bit more of a collaborative approach to like, hey guys, like we're serious. You just need to trim this down. And I just don't think they're getting notes. I don't think they're getting like helpful feedback.
And
from
honestly,
people.
like from a person in a creative field that has to take feedback from time to time, I get it. Like if I had that choice, I'd probably make the same choice. But that's not the
Eric.
position
That's
I'm in.
called the Bloody Good Horror Podcast. We fucking we take
That's
no
not
notes,
the position I'm in. Is I have to watch it, so I would like it to be shorter. And
I have my own suspicions, especially with this Netflix movies, and like we've talked about, they've been plagued with being overly long and whatnot. I mean, Netflix, we already know they're doing all sorts of stuff with the data and how you watch movies and stuff like that. I think they know that most of their viewers are perfectly happy to pause a movie and come back the next day, and they don't care. So they're keeping you coming back, and that's really all they care about. So they don't give them a whole lot of boundaries.
Casey, you're 100% right. Like there's almost no downside for Netflix. Like and if it helps them win a movie that they might otherwise lose, like they'll give them the budget and say, do whatever the fuck you want if you keep it under $10 million.
Right.
No, look,
But that's exactly the thing though. Like with a movie like this, is they don't have the same drive as the studios do, the major studios, to say, okay, we need you to trim a little bit.
no, it's at the end of the day, like it's one of these like we're complaining about something that is sort of like it's like, oh, what, the movie's like 20 minutes. The problem for me is like there is a truly excellent version of this movie. There's like a very, very, very good movie, and what we got was like a good movie, you know. And it's like it's almost more upsetting when the movie's like good. The other one I always think about is that Jeremy Solnire movie with the fucking like wolves in the Arctic. What the hell was that? It's called like Into the Dark maybe, or something like that. That movie was like 2.5 hours long, and like I liked it, but if there was like a 1 hour 45-minute version, I would have liked it a lot more. You know, I would have like, I don't recommend that movie to anyone ever, but if there was like a tighter version, I'd be like, hey, you know, it's a fucking sweet movie, that third Jeremy Solnire movie. So
I don't know any of those words you're saying, but I understand what you're saying.
Eric, you ranted about that movie more than you ranted about
Oh, actually, that was one of the first
movie.
ones.
Yeah.
That was one of the first ones where we talked about the Netflix syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That literally might be the first episode we like coined it.
Dude, I mean, we've talked about it in the past, and I think, Eric, you've always been on the defense here. The fucking Irishman is like 3 hours and 20 minutes long. Like,
but it's good.
No, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes long.
No.
I'm sorry.
And listen, as I've said, there are like 5 people on Earth that can do whatever the hell they want with a movie, and Martin Scorsese is one of them. I wish he would make 8-hour movies. I would sit and watch them.
Well, dude, I think we talked about it, but
that's what I'm saying. It's not just that I have no patience. I just need shit to be good if you're gonna make it long. Well, like really good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the bright thing here, though. I think Joel Taylor, I don't know that he'll reach Eric's status of being of directors. He could do whatever the hell he wants, but I think he's gonna get even better, and I'm kind of excited.
I look, if anything, I hope he takes the feedback that like that movie could have been tighter. Like that's the biggest problem here. Because I agree with you. I actually, I like I said, I think this movie is like 90% of a really, really good movie, and it's like the 10% that's not working. That's like, fuck.
Well, and it's for me, it's frustrating because the atmosphere is there. Like the atmosphere, the style, the cast, it's everything is in place pretty much.
Did you guys notice they were doing the like Grindhouse, the movie Grindhouse, like the
grain,
the cigarette burns.
This, well, not cigarette. It's the like matching up of multiple reels thing. Yeah, they were like those like
it's the cigarette burns up in the corner.
Yeah. So,
no, he's talking about like the jump cuts.
Well, but also no, I'm talking about what Casey's mentioning. I didn't think they were actually cigarette burns in most films. That's like
no, I think that's what they're called.
Oh, it might be what they're called. Yeah, it's fair.
I remember reading a story that like when Tarantino shot the trailers, it was like one of the trailers in Grindhouse, they took the film outside and like just stomped on it a bunch. Schnars froze.
Uh-oh.
All right. There he is. He's back.
And he's back.
I think it's a sign. Would you recommend they clone Tyrone, Casey?
Yes.
John?
I'm also going to say yes.
I'm going to say yes, and here's why. It's been a terrible year for horror, and like we're all starving in the desert, you know.
It's not super horror. We didn't even talk about, I mean, this is mostly like genre exploitation sci-fi with light horror elements. Yeah,
it's very genre-y.
It's fun. It was it's wacky. For Jamie Foxx alone in my book.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. He's good. All right, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. I did see a rainbow today, John. That was a positive development. It's kind of cool.
Well, boy, howdy. Was that in the morning? I know we got a little bit of a storm here.
No, we got some random rain like around 6:30 or something, and then I looked up and there it was, John.
So nice.
Sign from the heavens.
Serendipitous.
There you go.
I don't want to brag, but I don't think it got over 75 here today.
It was chilly. Yeah, it's chilly in the Northeast.
It's been really reasonable here.
No email. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. I did actually post to Twitter, though. Are you still on a Twitter hiatus, Casey? I can take a quick look here.
My account is shut down at Twitter, so.
Oh, yeah? Look at you.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. All right, here we go. Ask BGH latest. One question from Brian. Hey guys, long time, first time. Just took my family to Midsummer Scream at the end of July, and they had an absolute blast. Just wondering, do you guys still do horror conventions? How many? If so, why? Do you go as a visitor? Just as a visitor? Thanks in advance. Keep up the great job. Thank you, Brian. That was a pleasant question. My beef with conventions is they're not near me. Like the nearest ones to me are in like Cherry Hill, probably, which is a good New Jersey, which is a good 5-hour drive, or like the Meadowlands. Isn't that in Cherry Hill, John?
No, right? Meadowlands is right outside New York City.
Out of the city, yes. Well, that's still a 3.5-hour drive for me, which is probably the closest. There were a few. There's like another level of like kind of. Calling them mid-tier would be generous horror conventions, and there were a couple of those in like Central and like Central Mass, I guess, that I went to once or twice. But man, I don't know. But the smaller ones tend to be real. Their margins are so thin; they're real fly by night. You might go to one year and it might be disappear the next year. But so no, it's been years, probably. So there was a yearly one in Worcester, Mass, called Rock and Shock. It was right. The convention center was right next to like a famous music venue in Worcester, and it would be a combination horror convention / music kind of 2-3 day thing. But it was always
horror music.
Like literally one year Insane Clown Posse headlined. It was that kind of a deal. It was not some kind of shit I'm gonna go watch, but it was like kind of funny. But they folded. At least last I heard, that convention is no longer after like 20 years.
Well, dude, I mean, that entire industry got like a real nasty shock during COVID. A lot of them survived and have actually like bounced back pretty hard. So
pandemic was hard on people who do that kind of stuff. And from my experience, just like from my Horror Hound days, talking to Nate a lot, like those guys, Nate and Aaron over at Horror Hound, they've just like such a finely oiled machine with this stuff, and they're good businessmen. They're very professional. I think part of the problem is you see a lot of people get into space that think they can do it, and they have no experience and they're not professional, and they end up just fucking it up wildly. I think that is probably what happens more often than not. Like, you would be surprised how many grifters are out there in the horror space. When they think a buck can be made. So maybe you would be surprised, John, but you know.
And speaking of Horror Hound, after a 4-year hiatus, Horror Hound Indie happened this past weekend. I didn't make it, unfortunately, but they...
was that the first one since pre-pandemic? I didn't realize it had been,
It's been 4 years since we've had one here, and it's back. And
I wonder what's in that
everything I've heard, it went really well.
I wonder what's in that restaurant we put out of business that's right next to the hotel.
It's gone.
That poor place was just not prepared for a convention of thousands of hungry horror fans. Literally ate all their food.
It's physically gone. They tore it down.
It was just over. It was over after that. I ended up eating.
Have you
Subway
guys been
night.
to Horror Hound Indie since they did the remodel of that hotel?
I mean, the last time I went was when we all went.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice now. It's really fancy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man,
you've piqued my interest.
Some good times. I would be down for something. We got to get
Yeah,
streamers to agree.
I
to
haven't
something.
been to one in a long time, and not for lack. Like, it's not. I wouldn't say lack of it. Like, my family is not super interested, so it's sort of like I got to go on my own.
Honestly,
Yeah,
to me, that
Explain
would
to my
be
wife I'm leaving her with 3 kids so I can go to a horror convention.
that would be the kind of speed of a meetup I'd be into these days, because that we get that question a lot. But like, if we could go to a horror con, which is somewhere where I could have a hotel room, we could have fun just hanging on the floor, but then also people could meet us there. Maybe we could go do something. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably the most manageable thing for us these days.
The hotel room's important. I've reached the Eric stage of my life. If we're going for the whole weekend, I'm going to need some naps.
Yeah, you know what really intrigues me is the Mahoning Drive-In in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Like,
that looks
they're the
fun.
one, they do Joe Bob stuff sometimes. They have like a yearly, I think, VHS fest. I think Trauma had some kind of festival there. But then I'm like, do I have to sleep at the drive-in? Because like I can't. I'm fucking
Yeah.
41, dude. I can't
How
do
far
that.
is Joe Ferry from that? We can come on. We can.
Yeah, that's a good question.
But they had
I want to say it's like a
I think it's
5 or
near,
6 hour drive from where I am. or
Yeah, I
something.
think
can
it's
look it up,
I
actually.
think it's near Pittsburgh, which is quite far from where he is. But
we as the Criswells don't do a whole lot of conventions, but we've been branching out and doing more of the pop culture conventions. There's a big one in Indy called PopCon that's started, which they kind of mix a lot of the pop genres and stuff. There's a lot of anime, video games, there's horror, and they get actors from across all those spectrums too. They're fun and they're a nice change up, and you're gonna find other stuff that you're geeked out on other than just horror too. And the kids get into that more. So
If I left,
taking them to that.
if I left right now, John, I could be there in 3 hours and 49 minutes.
yeah, it's like it's actually closer to like Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area than I thought. That's Eric. Look, we can pick
my
this
favorite
up.
tattoo artist is down there too, John.
It's only 2 hours from New York City. It's basically due west of New York City. So,
We
all
doing
right,
drive-in?
Casey, start
I'm not
driving.
driving.
We'll meet you in Mohanning.
I'm not driving, but if somebody wants to fly
There's
me into a
another
random
one-
airport and pick me up, I'm good.
Yearly, this is in Jersey, I think. The camp where they shot the original Friday the 13th does at least yearly. It might be more often than that, but like movie marathons where you're like watching it at the camp, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Don't shake your head at me, John. I'm a real horror fan. That's why I like that idea.
Yeah, are that's true. I'm sort of like,
I bleed for this life, John. It's all I got.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Oh, that was it from Twitter.
All right. We got a couple threads out there. We're on Threads now at Bloody Good Horror.
When you log into Threads now, if there's any like Threads news, it like forces it right. It like is at the top of your screen no matter what you do. It's like, hey, we added this thing and we fixed this thing. Like, please, 500 million if you come back, please.
All right. First up, we have our good buddy Skizbot. If you met your clone, would you be friends with yourself? I think I would get along with me. He would bombard me with stupid jokes, but I'd find them hilarious. And he would constantly cancel our plans, but I'd be relieved I didn't have to leave the house.
As a person who enthusiastically listens to his own podcast, I think I could confidently say that I would enjoy my company. I will listen to back and laugh at myself, John, full disclosure.
Dude, I have 3 kids that are uncomfortably similar to me at times. That I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I have.
This
I
is
don't
a
know.
lot.
I'm not sure I have that problem. But
Well, it's funny. Like my son is very similar to me in some ways, and then my middle daughter she looks exactly like me, and like if anything, she's the closest, and it's like a little tiny girl version of me. It's very weird. It's fine. We have a good time, but I don't need a clone. I have those 2, and then the younger one, we'll see how that turns out. But
the real question is, John, would you do sexy stuff with your clone?
No.
Really? I don't know. I might think about it.
I mean, I'm the outgoing guy, especially at the BGH crew that stands at the convention table talking to anybody that walks up. So, if my clone showed up, I'd probably just sit and talk to myself for a long time. And be
Just keep
perfectly
yourself
happy.
company.
Yep.
Yeah. I would just find somebody to agree with me on everything the way it should be.
Or disagree with you because they just want to be disagreeable.
Just to be pain in the ass.
Yeah.
That would be That would be a nightmare. I don't want that one.
exactly.
I don't want that clone.
Mike the Baca asks, What horror movie would be entertaining with a clone-based sequel?
I mean, that's sort of where Halloween was going. I feel like when in Halloween 6 with like all the weird genetic testing stuff. I feel like that's like the direction they were going in.
Yeah. I mean, Cabin in the Woods would be too easy, though, right? As in having the clone being one of the items in the basement.
Oh, I mean, that probably exists.
Yeah.
I missed the whole question. I'm sorry.
It doesn't make sense, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a nonsensical question.
All right. Cool. Next up from @MetalProf. If you could clone one dead musical artist or actor and have their career started up from any age, who would it be?
Oh, God.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like musical artist is like a completely different thing from actors. Like there's actors that would be like interesting, but musical artists, it's just like the output is like completely different. You know what I mean?
Well, my first thought was when I read the question, my first thought was Buddy Holly. He died at the peak of his career, so bring him back and see what he does from there. Right?
No, that's a great answer. I love Buddy
James
Holly.
Dean or something as an actor.
Yeah.
But what a James Dean can.
Oh, there he goes.
I'm not the people I thought about. Am I freaking out? I can't.
You're
tell.
fine.
One of the people I thought was like Steve McQueen. Like would be cool. Like I love action movies. Like what would he do modern day? But it's like that. Like an actor is always filtered through the director and the script. And yeah. Like Buddy Holly, just let him run. Let's just go.
Exactly. I mean, he'd be putting out. I'd love to see what he grew into from that point.
Yeah, I mean Hank Williams. He only got to be 26 or something like Hank Williams.
I was just gonna say, is Buddy Holly the one that married his like 14-year-old cousin? And then I was like,
no, that's Jerry Lewis.
Lee Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry Lee Lewis, yes. Not Jerry Lewis.
Whoops.
Yeah.
All right. Last up we have from _adjusted podcast. Speaking of trios, what's your favorite trilogy? Feel free to bend the rules.
Favorite trilogy, man. Halloween 1, 2, and 3.
You're going Season of the Witch in there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not crazy.
Yeah.
I love The Matrix. I loved those sequels when they came out. I think they look even better in hindsight. Third one is still kind of a mess, but the second one's great.
I would say Star Wars 4, 5, 6.
Star Wars is, as you know, John, I recently rewatched them. Very good.
Yeah.
I think that Godfather 1 and 2 are good enough to count as a trilogy, and we can just talk about the third one.
Yeah.
Well, but like, this is the thing. I think there's a lot of trilogies where like, usually the third one is like a complete debacle. I mean, even Halloween 1, 2, and 3, like, the third one, I love it. I love the movie, but I'm saying like, it's not a true, I guess we're bending the rules.
For like modern flicks, I would go with the modern Planet of the Apes remake.
Decent.
I like those a lot.
I feel like the third one
was kind of underwhelming.
Hard.
It wasn't as good as the first two, but it was better than most number threes.
It did have Woody Harrelson though, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You guys remember more about those movies than I do.
He played the like
was he like the military
racist general trying to get like scrape together the last remains of the humans. Did you know they're making another one of those?
No.
No, but
without what's his face?
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis?
No, the direct weren't they all Matt Reeves or something?
I don't think they were all. Well, he did a lot of them. I
think he produced them or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying
that's not as good if they're. I'm not as excited if Matt Reeves is not involved.
Well, Matt Reeves is doing. He's all the Batman stuff now.
Yeah.
Is that movie good? I haven't seen that.
The Batman.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's solid. It's real long. So
the one positive thing that I came out of True Detective season 2 with is that
in fact, True Detective season 2 has dominated Eric's.
I think that Colin Farrell is my favorite modern actor.
He's excellent. Did you watch Banshees of Inisherin?
No.
You should watch it. I didn't even love the movie, but the performances are.
That's how I felt about him in True Detective. Like he's just like chewing scenery, and you know what he's great in. That every time I go back and watch it, I bring it up on the show. But that Fright Night remake, he is so goddamn good in that movie.
That movie's great.
Yeah.
Well, just on the trilogies front, Batman,
Yeah,
Chris Nolan
Nolan's.
Batmans are really good. That's a
Yes.
solid
Yeah.
trilogy.
That's a contender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Man, those movies are amazing.
Yeah.
Good question. Is that it?
All right. That's it for Threads.
All right. So many goddamn platforms here. Let's see what we got on Instagram. We got the guy who didn't like my typing.
Asked and answered.
Polly, can whoever is typing on their mechanical keyboard while their mic is hot, please do not do that? To which I said, now I'm going to do it harder.
But thanks for listening.
Zach says, is Jamie Foxx better here or in Horrible Bosses? Where, if you remember, John, in Horrible Bosses, he played a character named Motherfucker Jones.
I have not seen Horrible Bosses.
John.
Oh, they're good.
It's one of the best comedies of like that decade.
Really?
It's incredible.
It's like the last of the good modern comedies.
Charlie Day, like in his prime, like Charlie Day-ness,
I do
like
him.
Jason Sudeikis, Jason Bateman. And then Jamie Foxx. It's so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
I've watched it probably 20 times.
The second one's not terrible either.
It's not as good, but it's not terrible.
Is Jennifer Aniston in both of them or just the second one?
She's
in
both.
both, pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
And it's not your usual Jennifer
If you're
Aniston.
into hearing Jennifer Aniston, just say if you're into hearing her say just like the filthiest stuff you've ever heard, that movie's for you.
I've heard some filthy stuff, so.
What has this is a sad question, but a real one. What has the most potential to crack your top 10 this year? Saw X, The Nun 2, or The Exorcist remake?
Oh,
God.
I want to go on a limb and say Saw X.
I was going to go out on a limb and say Nun 2.
Yeah.
None 2 could be, if they branch out and get goofy, I'm down.
I mean, it's going to be butt clinchy. I don't know if it's going to be good, you know? So.
All right. Emprezia says, you need to do hashtag Chad Gets the Axe, which comes out on VOD on 9/1. Like Deadstream, but even better. Well, that's a pretty tall mountain to climb because Deadstream fucks.
Yeah,
Somebody want to Google
it
that?
currently has
It
has an 8.6 rating on.
Well, why don't we do this next week? Because we were just discussing.
Oh yeah, if it comes out 9/1, we can definitely do this
9/1.
next week.
Done. There you go.
We do need a recommendation. I don't know. This looks 4 social media influencers live stream their trip to Devil's Manor, former home to a satanic cult.
Sounds very similar to Deadstream.
Yeah, it does.
Is it going to be on Shudder?
It's VOD.
But
I think they said.
will the main character have a Walkman where they play their own spooky music set pieces? I watched that movie a few times since we did on the show. It's very good.
It looks awesome.
Chris says, "What has the?" Oh, I just read that. Other Chris says, "Are you doing Slaughterhouse?" Do you know about this stupid fucking thing?
So I
Yes.
am, as someone not on the internet, I did see something about this the other day.
I was like, I don't know, man.
It's
see
a
how
murder
slow-
slot.
Let's see how slow it gets.
I
I did like poo, blood, and honey, so I guess you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Did it get a theatrical? It looks like it might have.
Somebody on Slack yesterday said they were going to a screening.
Slaughterhouse. Oh boy, I don't know, guys. I guess I'm here for it if you want, but
I mean, I enjoyed Zombievers way more than they should have, so I'm down.
Okay. Slaughterhouse.
I'm just muting while my dog is hacking up a lung. I think I
Cool.
timed it. I think I got it.
Cool.
One more question for this week's show. It's an existential one from Merle, our buddy Merle. OG crew, do you all miss the old days?
Here's the thing. In the old days, I was a lot younger. And I do miss that.
Exact same train of thought as you. Yeah, like there's a stupid exuberance to being young that I miss. Although not that I never was. I'm not sure I would ever call myself, John, an exuberant person. However, there is like you don't understand how much energy you have until you fast forward 10 years and then go, oh shit, I had a lot of energy back then.
Yeah.
I do miss doing get-togethers and meeting fans. Like the pandemic kind of took the wind out of our sails with that. Like, not that we wouldn't do it, but we had just done a big thing and then the world got fucked for like 3 years. So, but you know, like largely, and I gave him a pretty existential answer on Instagram, but largely like I'm a fan of letting things be what they are and like not holding on to things too much because you can't do that because shit changes.
Yeah. The biggest thing I miss from the old days, like when we first started, is like my enthusiasm. Not that I'm not excited to be here, but back then I used to try to watch anything I could get my hands on, horror movie wise, weird stuff, obscure stuff, cheap stuff, you know. And now it's kind of like, oh, we're gonna BGH kind of directs what my movie watching is these days. And
Yeah,
I don't
same,
think I'm
but
alone
like
with that.
I think you're also just talking about getting old and
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
losing enthusiasm for life, which is what happens.
Yeah.
And the things that used to excite you. Yeah. But here's what I'll say is that there's like, I find, maybe not everybody, a kind of quiet confidence you gain as you get older. And like, there is a, like, I will sometimes like razz people a little bit when they're going to be on the show and they're like like Rachel or somebody crazy preparing. Although Rachel's the same age as all of us, but like I do nothing to prepare for the show. Would that surprise you, John? I find it pretty easy to just get in the seat and let her rip, which when I was younger, I don't know that I felt the same
Eric,
way.
you finished watching the movie 6 minutes before we started recording, so
I think
it does not
6 is
surprise me.
probably more than the actual reality, but yeah.
I
I was saying to somebody recently, like, I feel like the show at this point, the vibe that I get is like, I don't know if you know this, John, but Howard Stern now, just like literally, he just has a studio in his house and they all just have little mini studios in their house and they just all like connect to each other.
Yeah.
And like, he's just like, because he's comfortable there. Like,
Yeah.
I think the three of us, the guests we have on, there's just a comfortable vibe. And I'm ready to like ride that off into the sunset just until the day when we're like, fuck it. I think we're done.
Yeah. Fair. No, I think that's right.
I enjoy our vibe now is what I'm saying, as much as I can miss that old stuff.
We're processing the movies in real time now in a way that, like, to your point, we were potentially prepping more in the past.
I mean, we don't even, you really don't even have emails going anymore before the show. Like,
no,
we haven't done that in a while.
But yeah, it just depends. I feel like if there's a show where we're worried, there's going to be like a lot to
I will
unpack.
start an email thread if I'm worried everyone's going to disagree with me straight up. Like, so I'm like, just try to float this out ahead of time, just so you guys know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I could use some better horror movies. Like 2023 is not inspiring me in that department so much. But
well, guess what?
Yeah,
2024, you're gonna like 2024 even less because all these fucking writers and actors aren't making anything. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
These days, you could tell if I start an email thread for the episode for the week, it's because I finished it like watching it at midnight and wanted to talk about it, and I didn't want to text you guys.
It's the nice thing about the theatrical ones is I go to see it on a Friday night or Saturday morning, and then I don't have to do anything for the rest until the show.
Yeah.
When we do a VOD movie, it's just hanging over my head all week. I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta watch this movie.
I struggle with that with VOD movies too, because it'd be easy to throw it on the weekends, but I get to the weekends and I'm drawing and playing video games, and I don't even think about it.
The structure of having to go to the theater makes I have to plan everything out ahead of time, and then it just gets done easier. But what do you say, John? The Mahoney Drive-In, we can do it.
It's not that far, man. You get down to the city, we'll get in my minivan. We'll just fucking roll out there.
You have a minivan?
Yeah, I got a minivan.
Amazing. Where the hell do you
fly
park
to
a
New York
minivan?
City.
Get a parking spot. Don't worry about it. But
I'll fly to New York City. You guys could pick me up because I looked it up. It's a 10-hour drive for me.
Damn.
There you go.
Yeah, dude, we get a road trip from NYC.
Yeah. 2.5 hours. Okay.
All right, everybody. What's this movie we're doing next week? I don't want to make any decisions.
Chad, it's got a hashtag.
Is the
in the title.
hashtag actually? It is.
Yeah,
it
Chad
is.
gets the axe.
Got it.
Hashtag Chad gets the axe.
All right. I love it. That's going to do it for
Good
They Cloned Tyrone. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.